Welcome to the City Current Show. I'm your host, Jeremy Park. We're always honored to bring you inspiring stories of individuals and organizations making a difference and powering the good. And we love having entrepreneurs come on, sharing their story and tips and so much more. We're honored to be joined by Nathan Ruff. He's a serial entrepreneur. He's also the host of the Rabbit Hole podcast. I had a chance to be on his podcast, which was awesome. But Nathan, how are you doing, buddy?
I'm doing awesome. How about you, Jeremy?
Doing well. So you and I have gotten to know each other, on your end, actually, when you were in Dallas, in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and now you're back in Nashville in Middle Tennessee, which is kind of your home turf. But let's start with just getting to know you a little bit. Talk about just where you grew up and your childhood and kind of leading into becoming an entrepreneur.
Yeah. So grew up in Nashville in Bellevue. Somebody's like, oh, affluent family. I was like, you're thinking Belmead. There's a big difference. So I grew up in Bellevue, youngest of four, and wasn't for a wealthy family, had like 2 t-shirts, 1 pair of jeans. And when I was 11 years old, my neighbor for Christmas gave me a Ralph Lauren sweater. And I never felt quality like that before. And so that was kind of like, cool, I want more things like this. So a few months later, I turned 12 and it was like, cool, I got to make money. Nobody hires a 12-year-old. I wasn't big enough or strong enough to push a mower. And so somebody asked me to water their plants while they were out of town. I was like, oh, I could just water people's plants. Because during the summer, you have to like water plants twice a day, and that gets real annoying. Like right now as a homeowner, I would gladly pay any kid in my neighborhood to do that for me. So I started watering people's plants, and would get up at like 4 a.m. Because it's like if the sun's already out, then it's like not as nutritious as what I was told by my mom. I don't know if any of that's true, but anyway, I got up early, worked late, charged people weekly. I remember going door to door, telling people $10 a week, and they were like, "That's too expensive." So then I made it $9 a week. So I learned a little bit about anchoring. Now I would have 97, but I just didn't know. I was just 12. So, that was kind of my entrepreneur journey, is just seeing these opportunities and filling them. So that happened till I was about 14. At 14, I started regrouping golf clubs. And what happened there was I saw that it was like $3 a club to regroup golf clubs. And I was like, oh, I could do that for $1 a club, because I thought everything was about price. Like I didn't understand value. I thought value was price. I didn't think value was anything else. So I make business cards, because I had a computer at that point. I was 14, pretty good at design. And I then realized I'm not strong enough to regroup golf clubs. And so I get on Google, and on the 15th page of Google, I found an air compressor attachment that allows me to like shoot the grips in with an air compressor. And that is still like, that company's still in existence, still not like the leading way, even though you don't have to use solvent. So therefore it doesn't smell like gasoline. There's no drying period. Just use soap and water, dries in 30 minutes. It's like way better, but it's still not like the industry standard 10 years later now. But yeah, so that was kind of the second business, regrouping golf clubs. And I would just kind of play golf all day. I volunteered at a golf course I could play for free, like a metro course. And then I would just sell people grips. I mean, it was just kind of like a door-to-door salesman, but you were paired with me. It was a 9-hole course, took about an hour and a half to play. So got a good churn of people. And regrouping golf clubs. At 16, I love design. So I like made a t-shirt collection, and then used like Twitter and like all the new age media to start selling it. That was the first real business, where I hit 10K a month in revenue, and really like, oh, okay, cool, I know how to make money. And, all that kind of leads me to being, I guess 18, and seeing like I'm like day trading. I'm just doing all these like side hustle things. All these are like independent things. I'm like, oh, I know how to build websites. I'll build websites. And ultimately, fast forward to about 2021 or 20, I realized like I'm a complete idiot. I was homeschooled. I was very hard to teach to. I didn't go to college, or went very briefly. Nobody told me it's like student loans existed. Nobody told me like that ACT score mattered. Like I registered to take my own ACT test, right? So I remember doing like the whole, like I've heard a lot of people tell stories of kind of injustices and not having access to things. It's like, I really resonate with that. And so ultimately I realized I was a complete idiot, and I just accepted that about myself. I think we sometimes live in a society where if somebody says they're dumb, we're like, no, you're not. And it's like, it's okay to be dumb. I'm dumb about 95% of things, maybe more. And so I accept the truth about myself. I start to read 100 books a year and just change that. So after you start to read a lot, you start to realize like how real businesses are built, and those are built with employees and systems and processes. And so I start to kind of build an agency and highs and lows, ultimately had some success and was kind of done with it. I was kind of labeled like the website guy, right? I felt like I knew how to build a business, and I was just put in this box. And so I was just kind of, praying like, Lord, just whatever's next, just kind of make it clear. So I went on a trip to China and kind of had this idea to build a box that you scan a QR code, out pops a fully charged power brick, and you can rent or return it anywhere in the world. And it runs on IoT, which is kind of a new technology. It means it runs on SIM cards for anybody listening. And we went idea live in 115 days. I raised $1 million in 10 days from 10 people, or I guess 7 days from 10 people. And I didn't take all of that, which is a mistake, but I never fundraised before. I didn't know what I was doing. And so ultimately, I just kind of pivoted out of agency into solving the problem of people's phones dying. And so went really, really hard at that. Was the first business that I'd ever started that was instantly successful. So like, this is how business works. And this is, I always teach this at colleges and other stuff. And this is like really sad for people, but you're going to put a lot of time, a lot of money, and a lot of effort into this. You're going to launch it and nobody's going to care. And so we all get so excited for like getting to a cool, we're going live, and then you go live and nothing happens. And it is a very defeating thing, because you're like, okay, cool. How do I get people to care about this thing? And when you read and learn about most entrepreneurs, it takes about 10 years. Now, if you have a network, it drops significantly. Like Elon Musk has a network. That's why it's just like an instant thing. But as far as starting businesses, even if you're Elon Musk, it's probably 5 years. You look at like Boring Company, you look at Neuralink, like all those are 5-10 year projects. So if you look at starting, so it's one of these things of like, you can't start something and instantly make money. Like we like to pretend, like you can sell shoes for more than what you paid or whatever, but like real businesses take a lot of time to build. And so as you're building businesses, you just kind of have to go in there on the front end of this is going to take a while. So I launched Rabbit, and it's instantly successful, which is the weirdest thing ever. We're live at like 20 places in Nashville, and we're getting like 300 new users a week organically, like no marketing, no advertising, a plastic sign on top of it, because people will do anything for a charge phone, like literally anything. And so we found the market, and we had the right product for it. And so
what's funny, just even on that end, is we had a guest speaker recently, Coach Carter, and he said, you don't even, if your kids are misbehaving, you don't have to take their phone away, take their charger. To your point, it's like, we live on our phones. And so if you don't have access to a charger, you're sunk. But I tell you, I mean, even on your end, and you and I've talked about this, the ability to step into, especially during like a natural disaster, there's a huge opportunity on your end in terms of being able to be literally a lifesaver in many cases to what you're doing on that side as a business. So you've got some really cool opportunities on that end.
Yeah, it's one of those businesses where it's like our customers is like 6 billion people on earth. And it's you can't really, like, you can niche down of what we're going after, but it's like every live event, every place that people go to. And so whether that's like homeless shelters, where we're offering it for free, obviously, or that is South by Southwest, it is like the same, like everybody's a phone, everybody needs a charge. And so essentially we make this decision to go all in on live events. We make this decision in January of 2020. And it went great. Nothing up. Yeah, we were just doing awesome. And there was a virus that came along, I think called the flu. Anyway, it was like a 2-month thing. Everything was fine. No, COVID crushed us. And so I went back to my agency. So the company still exists. We're kind of in acquisition talks, so I can't really, it's not going to be, anybody listening, I'm not going to make $1 billion. It will be a soft landing, which means that all investors will get paid back in full, and maybe I'll get a steak dinner, but at least I get to see it live on, and I'll still own equity and be a part of the board and all that. So that's exciting if that happens. But I went back to the agency, and we essentially do custom design development, websites, visual branding, software, and then management. So kind of our biggest thing we do is we take existing assets and manage them, which is not a lot of people do that in our world. And so now that business is big enough where we're starting to take, if people want to work with us, like they're required to give us equity in their business for us to build their product, or we do a pure rev split. We'll build your product for free, but we want a rev split of all money it generates. And so we're really just building for the long term, for the future. And nonprofit SaaSes is kind of like my new obsession that I don't think anybody's ever done before. And so it's essentially saying, like, right now we create companies with the idea of funding a mission, but companies have high overhead, and when software doesn't. So what I would love is like a company like Calendly is too big, but a company like that essentially says, like, hey, because we have 95% margins, like this SaaS exists to fund nonprofits. So there's a couple of SaaSes that we even have internally that we're thinking about kind of making that the mission. Is essentially, we're just going to say, like, hey, all profits from these SaaS just go to nonprofits, and this software company exists to fund nonprofits, and we do that through a great software we built. And I think it's such a better model than like your average nonprofit, in the sense of that our margins are 95%.
Yeah.
Average
well, and creating the social enterprise mentality of using those opportunities to fund the charitable efforts, to fund the social impact efforts, that's huge. And I think really that's the future of philanthropy. And especially when you talk about kind of the CSR, that really is the future. I want to go back because you've kind of thrown a lot out there that I think are great nuggets. One of which, and we saw this a lot with the pandemic, is really around the world, is people saying, hey, I don't have a job. I don't know what to do. And as you mentioned early on, kind of the hustler of just looking around, and whether it's watering plants, business cards, regripping golf clubs, looking at any opportunity as an opportunity to serve and add value, but also to create income, to create revenue. But as you mentioned too, understanding that it's not necessarily what you charge, it's the value added. So what would your advice be for someone to look at opportunities and kind of, look around and figure out where can I kind of start, but then switching to understand price versus value?
So I'm now at an income level where price isn't as big of a deal. And I kind of live by this mentality of like, buy once, cry once. So it's like, I'll pay more money if it'll last forever. And that is not the vast majority of people. Like 70% of people don't have $400 in their checking account, right? So like, I do think that like starting businesses with price in mind is not a bad thing. And it's almost required because nobody knows who you are. And when you look at like finding your opportunity of what you want to do, you just like all businesses are, and all economy is like solving problems. So like whatever problem in the sense, like I have dirty dishes. If you can solve that, great. If you know how to meal prep and you can come to me and be like, hey, for $200 a week, I can give you 30 meals. And that would, it'd be like $500. Yeah, I don't know what, I'm saying, but it's like, and then there's people like me that, like for example, I host a bunch of events. So you come to me and you're like, hey, I'm trying to get better at my culinary efforts. If you'll pay me like $300 and cover food, I will completely cook all the food for your next event. And so there's an endless amount of opportunities because like people need problems solved. Like I have a 24,000 pound army truck, which you've seen, and I have new tires for it. And I have called 30 places trying to find a place that can put on they're giant tires and they're bead lots. And it's just like, it's a complicated thing and it weighs 24,000 pounds. So like even jacking it up is a whole new thing. And so it's like, wow, if somebody could just start a tire shop that could do it, like if somebody, like the thing about all these tire shops, they're all so busy, they could care less about my money, right? So it's like, there's an opportunity where you say, I think it's called Butler Tires. My friend has got an exotic car collection. He's never gone to a tire shop. They drive to him, they bring jats, they do everything on site. And so he pays like double what I pay at tire discounters, right? Now this time's worth 9 times more than mine, so it doesn't matter. But there's always a service there's always things you can do for people. And it doesn't, like I'm using like rich people like ideas of like, but like essentially there's all these problems that people are looking for solutions for. Um, and so you often got to look at like, okay, what are the problems I even solve in my own life, right? Like if you're really good at cleaning shoes, like I'm not a sneaker guy. I know some people, a lot of people are really into it. This is like I'm around a lot of entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs love their sneakers. And I have a white pair of shoes that got dirty and I don't know how to clean them. I've scrubbed them. Like I don't know how to clean them, but I've seen plenty of guys on TikTok know how to do it. Right. And I'm just like, if somebody like just is like, hey, I clean shoes for like $30 a pair or whatever, and I'm in Nashville, I'd be like, sweet. So I don't think things have to be like complicated. And so I would just look at like, I don't know, like Craigslist, like just seeing like the listings that people are needing help for. And because things aren't tough and you can always improve at them. And as long as you're just always honest with people. I mean, I think the biggest problem with today's entrepreneurs is like this pretending that they have it all together. So like every young entrepreneur I meet, for the most part, I don't want to stereotype. It's like they're trying to pretend they have employees. They're trying to pretend like just be honest. So like, hey, I have no employees. I have no money. I'm doing this to make money. I know how to do this one thing. Here we go. It's like, okay, cool. I can work with that. I can't work with like false expectations because that makes me just like hate you and never refer to you and like be mad. But if you make a mistake and you're honest about it, it's like we can have like there's something we can do there. But yeah, there's endless amounts of opportunities to make money. And like another thing you could do, you could go to Airbnb and you could search, you just look for a home in Nashville and it was be like managed by LMK Properties. So you just Google LMK Properties and go, hey guys, I'm looking to like clean Airbnbs after your guests come out. I can charge you like a flat rate. I know you charge an $80 cleaning fee. Obviously you need to make a profit. Can I take 45 of that? And so there's just kind of like endless ways to make money if that's your goal. What I've never liked and what seems to be a lot of people's path is like flipping things. Flipping things, I feel like you can get caught with inventory. People can steal from you. Like I like services businesses more than I like flipping things. And partially is I think what it does to your brain. I've worked with thousands of people. And I personally signed probably about 1,000 clients. And the guys that are deal people, which means they don't care about humans, they just care about the deal, are just kind of the worst. And it's because they live on making $8 here and $4 here. Where service people just tend to be just happier and more fulfilled and more like value driven. So that's my only like precaution. If you get into like flipping things, like flipping watches or flipping shoes or whatever, just like make sure you're still like trying to look at people as humans. I think that when you run a purely online business that's flipping, you get a lot of people that look at it as just a person. Like they don't look at it as a human being, just like, so their customer service isn't all like great, like all these things that you learn in a service-based business. Like people say, like you need to be a waiter to understand like how to talk to waiters. I've never been one. I've been, I guess, fortunate enough, but like I feel like it's the same thing. If you're like a really good waitress or waiter, you probably know how to run a service-based business or any business after the fact.
Yeah. Well, to your point, not looking at everything as a transaction, it's an opportunity to build a relationship. And I think the relationship building versus the transaction are polar opposites in terms of your mentality and your approach. I want to touch on too, the network, because I agree with you 100%. Having the network really is a key, especially when you talk about being able to to move quickly and you have an idea, you have something, and all of a sudden you have this network that can support you. Talk about maybe one or two of your ways to build a network. I look at one being volunteer and community engagement. Getting plugged into the community opens up the floodgates on those relationship building opportunities and building that network. But what's one or two tips on your end?
I'll start by saying I think the network is literally everything. So when you see like companies that do terrible work, you see that everywhere. It's not a shock. It's because they have a sales team that's good at building networks. Their founders has a good network. Where it's all comes down to networking. The first like 5 years of my career, I simply wasted because I thought it was about how good we were. Right. So we produced this phenomenal work, but it didn't really matter because like ultimately we didn't have 200 people wanting to give us money because I didn't have that network. So if there's like the only skill that will pay you for the rest of your life is knowing tons of people and like providing value, like network is literally everything more than product, service, employees, like anything. And so you look at building the network. There's like different types of networks. So like low level events, I recommend against going to. Because all you find is insurance salesmen, realtors, and like people in multi-level marketing. So it's like you might make new friends, but like they're people that are all looking for the same thing you are. Volunteering is awesome because you like it attracts the right type of people. So you might actually get like the realtor and the insurance the same out of people, but like at least they're like their heart is focused in the same place and they're not volunteering just to look good, right? Like especially if they volunteer like consistently, like it's a part of their life and their mission. And then I would add to that is like finding leadership roles or finding ways to step up, right? So like anytime there's anything, we're finding a way to build a free website for somebody. Anytime there's any way, we're finding a way to have rabbit kiosks there to provide free charging. Like there's just always, you need and you touched on this on your podcast with me, which is like, oh, you need a space to meet in our conference room, right? So like anything that's like I have a couple cars and like anytime people want to borrow it or use it or like, like my friend last night was like, hey, can I take your car on a date? Like I want to take this girl on a date. And I was like, you're misleading her, but sure, like she's gonna be a little disappointed on the second date. But, I say that to say like, if your goal is to build a network, then you'll find a way to do it. And often it's just going to be like being a desirable human being. And so, I don't know, like I'll go to a Starbucks, I'll give the cashier $100. I'll just say, just buy everybody here coffee. If they ask, just don't say anything. Right. Because I know that the person's like, what happens is the person you want to network, the person that owns the business is like, no, tell me, like, is he in this place? And the cashier's go, yeah, it's that guy over there. Right. And so it's like, there's a story where Jesus is like kills this guy. He's like, don't tell anybody. Right. And the guy goes and tells everybody, like the very next verse. Right. So it's like, it's kind of that thing, but it's, if you just got to look for like creative ways. And ultimately, like if you bless people's lives, they'll bless yours, or the world will bless, like it just always works out that way. And so I often find just like finding a way to do work for free is like kind of the best thing to do all the time. And so whether it's volunteering, whether it's going to businesses and saying, I want to do your logo for free, I want to make your videos for free. Like anybody that wants to start like a videography business, like just go to businesses and offer to film videos for free. Every business wants videos. So this stuff isn't hard. Finding the time can be hard. And that's what I deeply resonate with people that they're like, hey, I want to do free stuff. I want to do all this, but I still got to pay my bills. And that whole myths. And all I can say is you're just going to be spread through it thin, and there's no way around it. And just make sure you always hit your deadlines. That's ultimately for us. Like we fire any employee that misses a deadline. And that's incredibly intense. And like people have publicly bashed me for that. But it's to our clients, it's saying like, hey, we deeply care about our word and what we said to you. And our employees notes, day one, hiring, interviews, everything like, hey, we're not like super strict about anything other than if you miss a deadline. Because it means a lot to clients, because ultimately people like me that run businesses, people like you that run businesses, more than the quality is just dependability, right? So it's like, I will take an 8 quality to know that you always show up on time, other than a 10 quality and know that you show up some of the time, because you not showing up is the worst.
Well, and we live in a world with deadlines. I mean, that's the reality. And so I definitely respect that, because to honor the word and to do what needs to be done, you have to meet those deadlines. So this is one of those conversations we could have for forever. So we'll definitely have to have you come back and we can carry this forward and talk about your podcast and everything else. But wrap up with just website, social media. Where can we go to learn more and to follow you and your efforts?
Yeah, so nathanruff.com, NATHANRUFF, like a dog barking. nathanruff.com will, I think, redirect you everywhere you need to go. And, I'm like I only use Instagram. I'm starting to use Twitter again. I mean, now that Elon bought it, I'm like, maybe I'll give it a second chance. But I use Instagram. Nothing you see on Instagram is real. Like I'm a marketer, right? So don't ever get jealous of my life or think it's real. Like I'm a marketer. It's what I do. And Instagram's my social experiment. I mean, like I don't know. I posted that I endorsed 2 different candidates for president, like 3 months apart, and made people think I flipped. And then I had to announce I flipped. So people never know what's going on. It's like I just like toying with people. So just know that in the head. If my Instagram's like very confusing to you, none of it's real. And nathanruff.com, you can probably find me anywhere and email me or whatever. I'm very easy to get a hold of. And if I don't respond, just keep emailing me and I'll eventually get back to you.
I love it. Well, definitely a ton of good advice. And like I said, we'll definitely have you come back and we'll dive in even deeper. But Nathan, thank you for all you do. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks, Jimmy.